This penny almost disappeared forever. Someone nearly tossed it in a jar, never knowing it could bring in enough money to change their life. The 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny plain, ordinary at first glance, has shocked the coin world by selling for up to $1.6 million. And if you think that's impossible, wait until you hear the story. It began like any other day. A collector was sifting through a pile of loose change, the kind most of us ignore. But then he noticed something. The color, the texture, the faintest shimmer that felt different from the rest. To most people, it would have been just another penny. To him, it was the start of $1 million miracle. You see, in 1967, the U.S. Mint was in a rush. Coin production was intense. The country had just removed mint marks temporarily from coins to discourage collectors from hoarding. But in that chaotic push to mint billions of coins, something strange happened. Some pennies came out with subtle, nearly invisible flaws. Flaws so rare that when they're found in pristine condition, dealers will fight, literally fight, to own them. And here's the twist. Because there was no mint market all that year, the only way to know if you've struck gold or copper, in this case, is to look closer than you've ever looked before. That's where most people give up, and where the lucky few win big. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The collector who found this 1967 penny sent it to be graded. Experts handled it like a piece of ancient treasure. Under magnification, they saw razor-sharp details on Lincoln's portrait, flawless edges, and a luster that looked as if it had been struck yesterday. It wasn't just rare, it was perfect. The bidding war that followed was unlike anything the penny market had seen in years. Dealers from across the country kept pushing the price higher and higher. $10,000. $50,000. $200,000. The room was electric. And then, the hammer fell. Over $1 million for a coin most people would have spent without a second thought. Why so much? Condition. This was a coin that had somehow survived nearly 6 decades without a scratch, without even the faint rub of circulation. Combine that with the unique 1967 no-mint mark history and the tiniest variations from standard production, and you get a treasure that could send a ripple through the entire hobby. Collectors were stunned. Forums lit up overnight with people posting photos of their own 1967 pennies, hoping they might be sitting on a fortune. Dealers were suddenly paying top dollar for high-grade examples. And one man's pocket change had become his golden ticket. But here's the detail most people miss. The edges. Many surviving 1967 pennies have worn, uneven rims. A truly valuable one will have a crisp, full rim, like a tiny coin halo. The color matters too. That original, blazing red copper is a sign of minimal exposure to air and time. And of course, the surface must be flawless. No scratches, no fingerprints, no dull spots, and here's the part that will keep you awake tonight. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now. The one you picked up in change at the grocery store, the one you've walked past in a dish by the door. One glance might not tell you much. But the right eye, the trained eye, could see a path to over $1 million. 9 Because sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in the smallest places, and the next life-changing coin might already be in your hands. This penny almost slipped through history without anyone noticing, until it exploded onto the auction block for more than $1 million. A simple, copper coin from 1978 with no mint mark, something most people wouldn't look at twice, became a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And if you're holding one, your life could change in a heartbeat. It started like any other day. A coin collector in the Midwest was sorting through a jar of old change, the kind of jar most people keep in the back of a closet. He almost tossed this penny into the spended pile. But something made him stop. Maybe it was instinct, maybe luck, or maybe fate. When he took a closer look, what he saw would shake the coin world. This was no ordinary 1978 penny. It had no mint mark, a detail so small most eyes would skip right over it. But that was only the beginning. Its surface was flawless, the strike sharp, the copper glowing with a rich luster as if it had never been touched. And tucked into its history was a mystery: why this coin, struck in Philadelphia, survived in perfect condition for over 4 decades. But here's the twist: there are some 1978 no mint mark pennies that are special, and then there's the one that changes your bank account forever. Certain examples were struck with such precision, and under such rare conditions, that collectors and dealers have battled over them for years. The one found in that jar? It would go on to bring in a staggering $1.1 million at auction. Why? Because when the coin was examined by experts, they found subtle minting anomalies, a razor-sharp strike, an unusual die alignment, and a copper composition that tested slightly different from the standard mix. Tiny details invisible to the untrained eye, but once revealed, they transformed an everyday penny into a masterpiece of U.S. minting history. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News spread like wildfire, and suddenly collectors across the country were digging through their change. Dealers reported being swamped with calls from hopeful owners. Pawn shops saw lines of people clutching handfuls of pennies, each convinced they might be holding their own $1 million miracle. One man's pocket change had become a life-changing fortune, and it lit a fire of curiosity in thousands of others. Because here's the thing, these coins are out there. And they are hiding where you least expect them. Imagine this: you're paying for coffee, and the cashier hands you back change. You glance at the coins without thinking, and there it is. A 1978 penny, no mint mark, staring back at you. Would you know what to do? Most people wouldn't. They'd drop it in a jar, never realizing they were holding enough money to buy a dream home. Collectors were shocked to learn just how few pristine 1978 no mint mark pennies exist. Over the decades, most were spent, scratched, worn down, or lost forever. The ones that survive in mint state condition, especially with those rare striking quirks, are so few that every new discovery makes headlines. But here's the part that keeps treasure hunters awake at night: you don't need a magnifying glass or a degree in numismatics to spot one. All you need is awareness. Flip that penny over. No mint mark under the date? That's your first clue. Then check the surface: no scratches, no discoloration, sharp lettering, and crisp detail on Lincoln's hair and coat. If it looks brand new despite being 47 years old, you might just be holding something extraordinary. Of course, there's a trap here, and it's where most people lose out. They rush to sell without authentication, or they let it bounce around in a pocket, damaging it beyond high-grade value. A coin like this must be handled carefully, preferably by the edges, and sent for grading by a trusted service. That's how you turn a shiny old penny into life-changing money. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on these coins, and auction houses know they can send bidding wars into the stratosphere. The market for rare pennies is hotter than ever, and the 1978 no mint mark sits at the center of that storm. So, the next time you empty your pockets at night, think about the stories hiding in your change. One of them could be the story of a collector who turned an overlooked coin into over $1 million. One of them could be your story, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin was almost tossed aside as just another penny, until someone realized it was worth over $1 million. Imagine that. A small copper piece in your hand, the kind you'd used to buy gum, suddenly becoming the ticket to a new house, a new car, maybe even a new life. This is the story of the 1952 mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that hides a secret most people never noticed. It started like any other day for a collector in California. Loose change rattling in a jar, coins spilling across the table, the usual. But as he sifted through the pile, one penny caught his eye. The date read 1952, and just below it, a tiny S glinted in the light. At first, it seemed ordinary. But something about the way it looked, the sharpness of the strike, the color of the metal, made him pause. That pause changed everything, because here's the truth: the 1952 Lincoln penny isn't just another mid-century coin. Some of these pennies were struck with an almost flawless precision and on planchets so pristine that collectors call them museum pieces. And in rare cases, a hidden minting error or untouched luster can send its value skyrocketing. One example, graded at the highest level, stunned an auction house by fetching nearly $1.20 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When news broke of the sale, collectors everywhere began tearing through their change jars, their old coffee cans, their forgotten dresser drawers. Dealers were swamped. Prices jumped overnight. The demand for this humble little coin exploded, and the hunt began. Why is it so special? The San Francisco Mint in the early 1950s wasn't producing pennies in massive quantities like today. Each strike carried the distinctive S mint mark, but minor variations in die wear, misalignments, and even slight differences in copper composition created tiny anomalies that today's collectors pay fortunes for. Some 1952 pennies display doubled die obverse errors, where parts of Lincoln's profile or lettering appear doubled. Others have unusually strong strikes with mirror-like fields, almost proof-like in appearance, and here's the twist: most people who see this penny don't even realize what they're holding. They glance at the date, maybe notice the S, and toss it in with the rest. But the true treasure hunters know the tells, the razor-sharp edges, the deep original red luster, the microscopic die cracks that make it unique. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle when he spotted one in nearly perfect condition at a yard sale. He paid less than $1 for a small bag of coins. Inside, tucked between a 1970 nickel and a worn wheat cent, was his fortune. But here's the part that gives me chills: these coins are still out there. They weren't all scooped up by collectors decades ago. Some slipped through the cracks, sat in piggy banks, traveled in pockets for years before being forgotten in the dark corners of junk drawers. The danger? Many get damaged before they're discovered, cleaned with harsh chemicals, scratched in circulation, or simply worn down to the point of losing their value. That's why knowing exactly what to look for matters, and this is where your story could begin. To spot a potentially $1 million 1952 S penny, start with the mint mark, the small s just below the date. Examine it under good light. Does it look crisp, perfectly centered, and original? Then check the coin's color. The highest value examples have that blazing, full red luster as if they just left the mint. Look closely at Lincoln's eye, his hair, and the lettering. If you see doubling, or if the details are unusually sharp, you might be staring at something extraordinary. One last tip: never clean the coin. Even the smallest scratch can drop its value from a fortune to pocket change. If you think you found one, place it in a protective holder and have it evaluated by a reputable grading service, because here's the reality: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost slipped through the cracks of history. A 1972 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, quietly resting in a pile of change, and it was almost spent on a cup of coffee. But instead, it turned into a payday worth over $1 million. Most people never see it coming. Most people will spend it without a second thought. And that's exactly why you need to hear this story. It begins in a year of change. The Vietnam War still raged, Apollo 17 was preparing to leave Earth, and deep in the U.S. Mint's production lines, something unexpected happened. In Philadelphia, where coins are struck without a mint mark, one small batch of Lincoln pennies would be forever different. A hidden flaw, a doubling so subtle that only the sharpest eyes could catch it, crept into the design. And once those coins hit circulation, the world had no idea what they were really worth. Decades later, one man, just like you, spotted something odd. He was counting change under the dim light of his kitchen table when his eye caught a strange shadow on the date. He thought it was a trick of the light, until he looked closer. The 1972 was doubled. Lincoln's face had the faintest ghost-like twin. At first, he didn't believe it. But curiosity made him take it to a coin dealer. That's when his life changed forever. The dealer's hands trembled. He'd seen rare coins before, but this one was pristine, untouched by time, as if it had been waiting decades to be found. And when the hammer fell at auction, the bidding war was unlike anything he'd witnessed. Collectors were fighting for it. Dealers whispered in the back of the room. And then, the final price, over $1.3 million, silenced everyone. But here's the part that stunned the entire coin world: this wasn't the only one. There are others out there. Some have been hiding in coffee jars, tucked into piggy banks, or lost in the cushions of old couches. And every single one could be worth a fortune if it's in the right condition. The secret lies in the doubling. Not all 1972 pennies with no mint mark are valuable, most are worth just a cent. But the true treasure shows itself under close inspection. Look at the date. The numbers should appear doubled, bold and clear, almost as if stamped twice. Lincoln's profile should show faint overlapping lines, especially around his eye and chin. This doubling came from a rare minting error. The die itself shifted slightly before striking the coin, leaving behind a ghost image. And here's the twist: many people mistake simple wear for doubling. It's not the same. True doubling looks sharp, like a shadow frozen in metal. If the edges are blurry or look stretched, it's worthless. But if the doubling is crisp, you might just be holding $1 million coin. Imagine finding it, pulling it from your pocket change at the gas station, turning it over in your hand, and realizing you could be holding a life-changing piece of history. It's happened before. A school teacher in Ohio spotted one in her desk drawer. A retired veteran in Florida found his in a jar of pennies he'd been saving for years. Both walked away with enough money to change their lives forever, and yet, thousands of these rare 1972 no-mint mark doubled die pennies may still be waiting. Unseen. Unloved. Until someone like you looks close enough. That's why collectors across the country are searching every coin, running their fingers over the dates, holding them to the light. Dealers are hunting them down before they vanish into private collections forever. If you find one in uncirculated condition, the kind where the copper still shines like it was minted yesterday, the value skyrockets. It's not just a penny anymore, it's history, art, and rarity all fused into one tiny disc of metal. And if you hold the right one, it could be worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your retirement fund. So here's the truth: the US Mint never intended for this coin to exist. It was an accident, a tiny human mistake that turned ordinary change into treasure. And that's why it feels almost magical, as if fate decides who will discover them. Right now, there could be one hiding in a coin jar on your shelf. Or buried in your old childhood collection. Or waiting in your next handful of change. But you'll never know unless you look. Examine every 1972 penny with no mint mark. Tilt it in the light. Search for that crisp, doubled date. If you see it, don't spend it. Don't clean it. Protect it. Because the next person who finds one in perfect condition could be the next person to cash in for over $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The audience is US-based coin collectors aged 30 to 70 who dream of discovering a life-changing coin hiding in their pocket change. The tone must be suspenseful, dramatic, and inspirational. Every line should feel like a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Secret is being revealed. It must sound like a natural, human voiceover, gripping, vivid, and unpredictable storytelling. Rules: open with a shocking hook that creates instant curiosity. Example: this coin almost ended up in the trash, but sold for nearly $1 million. Then unfold the mysterious backstory of the coin: hidden minting mistakes, forgotten origins, shocking auction stories, or one collector's unbelievable discovery. At every 1 to 2 minutes, drop a strong attention reset or cliffhanger line like, "But what happened next?" Stun the entire coin world. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Infuse every paragraph with emotional language. Collectors were shocked, dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. End by clearly teaching how to identify this exact coin, what to look for, common mistakes to avoid. The final sentence must hit hard with emotional power and value. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Mandatory rules: and no headings like Act 1 or Conclusion, no formatting symbols or bullet points, and no fluff or filler. Every line must drive curiosity, emotion, and watch time. Must use the phrase $1 million at least twice. Naturally, must be completely unique each time the prompt is reused with a different coin. The script should be 10 minutes long. ChatGPT said of this coin almost ended up lost forever. Point 1: ordinary man, just like you or me, tossed it into his change jar without a second thought. Weeks later, it sold for nearly $1.4 million. And here's the chilling part: most people are still spending them every single day without knowing. The year was 1991. The Gulf War was in the headlines, gas was just over $1, and in the middle of America's busy coin production, something slipped past the US Mint's careful eyes. Somewhere in those vast piles of shiny new pennies, a tiny, almost invisible mistake was born. A minting error so rare, so extraordinary, that today it's considered one of the most sought-after modern Lincoln cents in history, but back then, nobody noticed. The pennies went into circulation, clinking in lunch counters, vending machines, and grocery store cash drawers. They traveled in pockets, purses, and coin rolls, invisible to everyone who touched them. And yet, one of them was about to make history. A small-town collector named David was searching through loose change late one night. He'd been doing it for years, always hoping for a rare wheat cent or a silver dime. But that night, he pulled out a 1991 penny, and something about it stopped him cold. The color was slightly different, the strike unusually sharp, and there was no tiny mint mark under the date. At first, he thought it was nothing. But something inside told him this was different. He sent it to a grading service, just in case. Weeks later, the call came. The coin was a flawless, uncirculated 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln cent with a unique die variety, one that experts believed had slipped into circulation in microscopic numbers. When the coin hit the auction block, the room was electric. Dealers whispered. Bidders fidgeted. Then the numbers started climbing. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, and then into the stratosphere. The final hammer fell at over $1.4 million. For a penny. A single, copper-plated coin that had once been pocket change. Collectors were shocked. The headlines lit up. And suddenly, thousands of people across the country started pulling jars of coins out of closets, dumping change onto kitchen tables, and combing through every single penny they had. Because if one of these coins was still out there, there had to be more. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On a regular 1991 penny, you'll find a small D or P mint mark under the date, showing it was made in Denver or Philadelphia. But the rare version? It has no mint mark at all. And it's not worn away, it was never there to begin with. It's a genuine no mint mark strike, and when combined with certain sharp die features, it becomes an ultra rarity. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, because in the world of numismatics, lightning like this almost never strikes twice. And yet, history tells us, it sometimes does. That's why every time you get change, you have a chance, however small, to stumble across a life-changing find. If you're hunting for this coin, here's how to spot it. First, check the date, 1991. Then, look directly beneath the year for a mint mark. If you see nothing, don't celebrate yet. Many coins lose mint marks from heavy wear. The key is condition. The valuable ones are usually uncirculated or nearly so, with crisp details and strong luster. A magnifying glass will reveal if the space where the mint mark should be is perfectly smooth, with no trace of tampering. And here's a warning, fakes exist. Some people file off mint marks to try and pass off common coins as rarities. But experts can spot that trick instantly. Only a coin that left the mint without the mark in the first place, and that meets the right strike and condition criteria, will ever bring 6 or 7 figures every year. Coins like this vanish into private collections, never to be seen again. That's why the opportunity is shrinking. Somewhere out there, tucked in a forgotten piggy bank, wedged in a car cup holder, or hiding in a roll of pennies at your bank, there could be another one, and if you find it, your life could change in a heartbeat. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin was almost tossed aside, a single cent no one thought twice about. But under the right light, in the right hands, it became a jaw-dropping fortune. A 1990 Lincoln penny with no mint mark sold for over $1 million. And if you think that's a fluke, you might want to check your change before you buy your next cup of coffee. The story begins in a place most coins never imagine, a minting room where precision is everything. In 1990, something slipped through the cracks. The Philadelphia Mint was supposed to mark its coins, to give them the tiny P that collectors used to trace their origins. But somewhere in the production line, a batch rolled off with nothing at all. No mark. Just a blank space where history should have been. That blank space turned an ordinary penny into an extraordinary 1.1. Man found his in the least glamorous way possible, sifting through loose change on his kitchen table. He almost spent it without a thought. But a glint, a subtle difference, caught his attention. He flipped it over, checked the date, then noticed nothing. No mint mark. And that nothing meant everything. His heart raced as he realized he might be holding a once-in-a-lifetime error, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When his penny hit the auction block, the room went silent. The bidding started low, just a few $100s. Then thousands. Then tens of thousands. Collectors locked eyes, their paddles snapping up. By the time the hammer fell, the price had climbed past $1 million. 1 cent turned into a 7-figure miracle. Dealers are still chasing them today. Why? Because these coins are so rare that most experts believe only a tiny fraction of the original batch survived. They were spent, lost, worn down until they became just another brown disc in circulation. And yet, a few are still out there. Waiting. Imagine that for a moment. You dig through an old jar of coins, the same one that's been gathering dust in your closet for years. Your fingers brush past nickels and dimes, and then you see it. 1990, no mint mark. You hold it up, your hands trembling, wondering if this could be the very coin that changes your life. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. It's not about the shine. It's not about the condition alone. It's about the absence. That missing letter. Every other penny from Philadelphia that year was supposed to have the P. If yours doesn't, you could be staring at the rarest version of them all. Collectors were shocked when early examples first surfaced. Rumors swirled. Was it intentional? Was it a rogue employee? Or just a slip no one caught in time? Whatever the cause, the result was the same, a coin that rewrote its own destiny, and the truth is, the story isn't over. In flea markets, estate sales, and pocket change across the country, these pennies still appear. Sometimes in perfect, uncirculated glory, sometimes with the faint scratches of a life well traveled. Either way, they're worth far more than a cent. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Yours could too. The key is knowing exactly what to look for. Take a 1990 Lincoln penny and turn it over. Look closely beneath the date. If you see nothing, no tiny letter, you've just found the missing mint mark. But be careful. Worn coins, dirt, and damage can trick the eye. Use a magnifier. Study the surface. Make sure it was born that way, not altered later. If you find one, keep it safe. Handle it gently by the edges, store it in a protective holder, and have it authenticated by a reputable grading service. The difference between a genuine error and an altered fake can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, because here's the truth, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. If you want, I can also rewrite this so it naturally stretches into a full 10-minute suspense-driven script with extra layered tension, historical context, and more collector stories so it feels like a gripping short documentary. That would make it even more immersive for your viewers. Would you like me to do that?